My mom tried to cancel my $12,750 honeymoon mid-flight. 31 texts changed everything. I, 28M, am currently sitting in a pressurized cabin 35,000 feet above the Atlantic, watching the flight tracker move toward Santorini. My wife, 27F, is asleep on my shoulder, blissfully unaware that in the last few hours, my mother has attempted to incinerate our marriage, my bank account, and my future. This honeymoon cost us $12,750. It was a gift to ourselves after 3 years of grueling saving and overtime. We didn't ask for a dime from our parents. My mother, however, has always operated under the delusion that my bank account is a communal family well. She has this "what's yours is mine" philosophy that she only applies when she's the one doing the taking. The conflict started months ago during wedding planning. My mother demanded we invite her third cousins, people I haven't seen since I was in diapers. I said no. She then demanded a contribution toward her retirement as a wedding gift. I said no. I thought the boundaries were set. I was wrong. The moment we cleared TSA and boarded this flight, the madness began. Since I'm on the plane's Wi-Fi, I started receiving a barrage of notifications that made my blood run cold. It started with a text at 10:15 a.m. I need the login for your primary savings.
Now.
Emergency. I ignored it, figuring her emergency was a sale at some department store. 10 minutes later, my phone started vibrating like an angry hornet. By text number 5, she was threatening to call the airline to report a family crisis so they would ground the plane at the layover. By text 12, she revealed she found my spare key and was inside my house. She found my physical backup codes for two-factor authentication in my desk drawer. She claimed my sister needed the money for tuition, which is a complete lie because my sister dropped out 2 years ago and just wants a down payment on a luxury SUV. Then came text 18, the one that actually made me nauseous. She told me she'd contacted our travel agency, claimed to be my power of attorney, and reported a medical emergency to demand a refund on the villas and private tours. She was actively dismantling our $12,750 trip while I was trapped in a metal tube over the ocean. She knew the agency because she'd seen the itinerary on my counter when she stopped by to feed our cat. She thought she'd won because she's mom and has some imagined legal right to my life. I watched the read, receipts click on as she sent text 25. She told me not to bother calling because she'd already moved $4,000 out of an old joint emergency account we never closed from when I was 20. She called it her consultation fee for fixing my life. I didn't reply. I opened my laptop. I had 8 hours of flight time to ensure that when we land, the only thing my mother is canceling is her own freedom. My mother's mistake was thinking I was still that 19-year-old kid who would roll over to keep the peace. She's used to my father, who spent 30 years nodding while she drained their accounts for failed pyramid schemes. I spent the next 2 hours on the Wi-Fi. First, I hit the travel agency's 24-hour web chat. I told them I was mid-flight and that any woman calling claiming to be my power of attorney was committing fraud. The agent told me she had been minutes away from processing the cancellation because my mother had provided my full social security number and date of birth. Text 28 arrived. The travel agency is being difficult. I'm calling your bank next to tell them your card was stolen so they freeze it. If I can't have the money for your sister, you aren't spending it on some overpriced Greek rock. You'll be stranded. Turn the plane around. She was trying to strand us in a foreign country with no money. I opened my banking app. Under the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, I have protections, but that $4,000 was in a joint account she technically had access to. The $8,750 for the honeymoon, however, was in my private account. I opened my Ring camera app. There she was in my hallway, tossing my private papers and holding my passport to the light while barking into her phone. In New York, where we live, that's third-degree burglary. Text 31 was the final straw. She told me she was heading to the police station to report me for elder abuse because I was withholding promised financial support. She wanted to see how the airline would handle a passenger under investigation. I followed my lawyer's advice. Document, don't deviate. I compiled a digital war chest of the Ring footage, the 31 texts, and the logs from the travel agency. I saw her location on Find My Friends. She was at the bank. Text 32. The bank says I can't touch the main account without your signature. You need to call them.
Now.
Your sister is at the dealership waiting for the wire. Don't embarrass our family. I didn't call the bank to help her. I called their fraud department. I told them my mother was at a branch, right now attempting unauthorized access with a fake power of attorney. The rep confirmed she was at the manager's desk in the Syracuse branch at that very moment. I told them to inform the manager that the police had been notified of a burglary at my home. Minutes later, my phone exploded. They asked me to leave. The manager threatened to call security. How dare you? I am your mother. You are dead to this family. I replied for the first time. I've seen the footage. I've talked to the agency and my lawyer. The $4,000 you took was the last cent you will ever get. The locksmith is at my house in 20 minutes. If you're still there, explain to the cops why you're trespassing. Stay away from my bank, my travel agent, and my wife. My wife woke up and saw my face. I couldn't keep it from her. I handed her the phone and let her read all 32 texts. She went from sleepy to pure rage in seconds. She didn't ask to keep the peace. She wanted her trespassed permanently. As we descended into Santorini, I got a text from my father. He'd seen the chaos on my mother's iPad and the scene at the bank. He told me he was staying at a hotel, he was done with her, and not to let her ruin the trip. The moment we touched down, I called the detective back home. Because she used my SSN to try to get into my primary account and moved that $4,000 under the false claim that I was incapacitated, it was now grand larceny and identity theft. The detective told me they were at my house, and she was being detained because she refused to leave when the locksmith arrived, claiming she owned the place. I finally picked up a call from the precinct. She was shrieking about dropping the charges because she's a grandmother and an upstanding citizen. I told her she was a predator who ran out of prey. She started screaming about my sister losing her car deposit and how I'd ruined her life. I pointed out that the bank had already initiated a reversal on that $4,000 transfer because it was flagged as fraud. She threatened to sue me for emotional distress, but I asked her what money she'd use, considering my dad had already met with a divorce attorney and frozen their assets. The silence was incredible. Because of the ring footage and the travel agency logs, the DA didn't even need me there to push a plea deal. She's now a convicted felon, identity theft in the second degree. She got 5 years of probation and a permanent order of protection. She can't come within 500 feet of us. My lawyer also filed a civil suit, and we won a judgment for the $4,000 plus legal fees and the locksmith costs, totaling $7,500. My sister had to get a job at a diner to pay off her car debt, and my father is officially divorced and living in a condo by the lake. My mother tried to cancel a $12,750 honeymoon, but she ended up canceling her entire life. Sitting here on this balcony in Santorini, I realized that money was the best investment I ever made. It didn't just buy a vacation. It bought the rest of my life. If you enjoyed watching a toxic boundary turn into a legal one, feel free to subscribe. I tell you to ask my mom for her thoughts, but she's not allowed to use a computer without supervision anymore.